Okay, you're watching Overdrive, and I am very, very pleased to introduce Rou Reynolds to the show today. How are you, man? Very lovely to see you.
Good to see you too. I'm well, thank you. How you doing?
Excellent. I tell you, when I heard that you were taking, obviously, we're going to have a chat about your journey into theatre, I suppose, here with War of the Worlds. When I first heard that, I had to kind of double take and say, "What?" Um, so my first question is, like, how did all of this come about? How did you land this role?
Um, well, I basically just had a call from Jeff Wayne's people, and I was just as shocked, kind of getting that call as anyone else is hearing that I'm involved, I think. But yeah, just went down to his studio. He's actually not very far from me here in North London, and yeah, had a really long, lovely chat with him, and was surprised to learn that he'd been following my band Enter Shikari for quite a few years,
Wow.
and was really impressed. And yeah, that was shock enough, and that was amazing to hear. And then offered me the role. I was obviously thrilled, but also filled with anxiety because I've never done any like proper acting. I've done like music videos and things like that, but yeah, so I went away just a bit sort of shell shocked almost, just like, God, okay, how do I process this? Is this something I can see myself doing? But yeah, it was just the experience of going to his house and his studio was great.
And obviously, this is such an iconic War of the Worlds. I mean, it's an incredible story. It's been around for quite a long time. Like growing up as a kid, like did you ever, did you read about this or like what's your relationship with War of the Worlds like from a young age growing up?
I was first introduced to it when I was about 6 or 7 by my
Wow.
uncle. Um, and all I can remember is being pretty terrified by it, basically, as I'm sure anyone of that age would be. But I remember coming back to it. I remember my uncle was a huge fan, and when he heard I was involved, I don't think he's ever been prouder. Um, but
Awesome.
yeah, my dad also had he was a DJ and had a mammoth vinyl collection, and I can remember sifting through his vinyls on rainy days when we used to live up in Scotland when I was about 11 or 12. I remember rediscovering it then
Yeah.
and absolutely falling in love with it. It's for a kid of that age, it's just so imaginative. It's so
Mm.
exciting. It's so thrilling. Um, and then I think at like different points in my life, I've come back to it and sort of gleaned different things from it. I think, like now I'm super interested in H.G. Wells as a person. I think it's fascinating in his kind of breadth of insight that he offered, and his other stories and his life. Even to the point of he was one of the not just the founding fathers for science fiction, but like contributed to the UN's Declaration of Human Rights. He's
Mm.
such a rounded, interesting person. So now when I come to it, there's all sorts of further depth to get from the story, and I think there's so many parallels, important parallels today from War of the Worlds. And so I've never actually seen Jeff Wayne's live production.
Wow.
I've
Okay.
listened to the album countless times, but
Yeah.
yeah. So in that respect, I'm going in dry. But yeah, I think it's always been present in my life, really.
Yeah.
So that just made it even more amazing to be
It's
asked.
it's so fantastic that I mean you just said there that you kind of were aware of it from such a young age at the age of 6 or whatever you said 6 or 7 and then if you had a kind of a flash forward into the future of that you would be part of this it's just quite mind-blowing really. It's almost like a full
Mm,
circle thing, so that's just incredible. So if I'm correct here, your main character is the artilleryman, is that right?
yeah.
So have you been involved with, has all the rehearsals begun, and are you in there doing the behind the scenes stuff already and integrating with the rest of the cast, and has all that been in full flow?
Not to any great extent. Like uh, I've been to Jeff's studio now quite a few times and hung out with him and talked through everything. And I've recorded my parts in order to sort of go away and learn them.
Hmm.
But in terms of the rest of the cast, I mean, they're not. It's not even fully announced yet, so I actually don't even know,
Yeah.
apart from Maisie and George, who else is going to be involved. I've heard some ticklings and rumors and things, but yeah, I have no idea. So it's still quite early stages. I think rehearsals start at the beginning of next year, but
Okay.
for now, I think I'm just trying to re-familiarize myself
Yeah.
with the whole thing really, and try and work out what I can bring to the character of the artilleryman.
It is really different from what you obviously do with Enter Shikari in terms of like you go out there as you and you this is what you do with your mates, your band members and whatnot. You know, are you thinking about how do I it's almost kind of like method acting in a way where you have to get yourself into that frame of mind. And have you been reading or researching any kind of tidbits from other actors like, you know, that do that sort of transform themselves into this other sort of being, you know?
I think what's gonna really be like the beginning point for me of like truly immersing myself in the character is when we have the costume fittings. I'm like
Yeah,
really
yeah.
looking forward to that. But at that point, it really just goes back to dressing up as a kid, you know,
Yeah.
and just and playing. You know, essentially acting is playing. And I think even though I've had no formal training as an actor, I've always like I love just like character based humor. I've always done sort of like stupid little character things on, you know, going back to like do you remember Vine, the that old social media app?
Yeah, yeah, I do
Things like that.
actually. Yeah,
I used
I
to
loved
love all
that.
that. Yeah, and always used to do like record sketch shows with Rob actually, a drummer in our band when we were kids. So I think I've always loved being a character. And I think, you know, you can get really deep with this sort of stuff. And there's actually a few tracks on our last album that are all about like our own personality and like who is the real you. Because, you know, we go through our life and we shape shift in different situations with different people. We act in different ways. And sometimes it can be quite hard to truly know yourself because we're always evolving as human beings. Um, so yeah, you know, I think there's just a way we can slip into different characters, and I'm hoping it'll be like a fairly natural process.
Yeah.
Just are you intrigued about the just the dichotomy of that surreal experience because you're so used to going out and I've seen your Enter Shikari a few times and you are like you are right in there in the audience quite literally and the behavior at an Enter Shikari show is going to be dramatically different to the behavior at this particular show. So are you intrigued about just the experience of that dichotomy of wow, this is like so unbelievably different, but
Mm.
equally kind of fulfilling, you know?
Yeah, I think there's major differences and then major similarities. Like I'm
Mm.
hoping that just the kind of, you know, I can bring a lot of like the energy and stamina that I have to have for Shikari into this role. But then, like you say, like the audience reaction is something that Enter Shikari feeds off of. You know,
Yes,
it's our
yeah.
fuel. Like not just in the live scenario, but even as a songwriter, like those moments where you get the roar of a crowd, or you can. It's a very visceral thing. You can feel their energy and their reaction to something. Um, they're like moments that I live for, really. So
Mm.
this will be incredibly different. It's obviously a seated audience,
Yeah,
and it's a performance. It's a very regimented, strict performance. It's all to click. You know,
definitely.
you can't fuck up in
Yeah,
in
yeah,
this. Like
yeah.
it's all very it's very different in that respect. And also, you know, I've obviously done speeches from stage with Shikari, but they've been largely off the cuff, or you know, I've made notes and I sort of know vaguely what I want to say. This is like script. This
Mm.
is word for word that I've got to learn dialogue. So that's
Of
also going
course,
to
yeah.
be very different, and I think that's what I'm going to find. Well, I might not find it the most challenging, but like that's my. I suspect that will be the thing that I
The
have difficulty.
panic of like, oh shit, like there's so
Yeah,
much to learn. It's kind of yeah.
yeah.
Do you think that this experience will make you sort of change, not change, but influence the way you create? for Enter Shikari. Like for instance, songwriting, like just a different grandiose picture of the way song structures are and things like that. Because you can only soak up experience from this that I'm sure you're going to then say, oh, this is a great idea. I've just unlocked a kind of a creative thing in my brain. Can you see it being maybe an influence to some degree into what you do with Enter Shikari?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I think you're right. We as humans, we're just sponges, aren't we? We're just walking around absorbing things, either consciously or subconsciously. Um, and I think I wouldn't be able to not be influenced by it. You know, it's such an institution. I think that just the live production of it all is going to be really inspiring because
Mm.
with Shikari, we've always had a kind of theatrical side to us. You know, we like putting on a show. We like trying to attack all the senses. This isn't just something that you go and kind of mindlessly watch. We like to really immerse people. Um, so I think War of the Worlds is going to be um, it's going to be able to teach me so much because it's such a long-standing thing. Usually, what happens when I do something a bit different in my life and push myself outside of my comfort zone, it's the same with anyone. You end up gaining confidence in
Yeah,
something else, and
absolutely.
that's usually been the most important thing for Shikari because not being an overtly confident person, I need these experiences to go, oh no, you can do that. You can make music that's like this. You are allowed. It's
Mm.
there's a lot of I think especially within indie and within like growing up in a punk scene, it can be quite stringent in like uh you you stay in this little box and you do
Yeah,
this little thing.
yeah.
And I think that's the success of Enter Shikari has been the fact that we've always managed to kind of break out into
Oh,
new
absolutely.
areas.
Yeah,
But yeah, I'm thoroughly looking
sure.
forward to the
Just,
inspiration.
just
The one thing that people don't want from their favorite musicians, favorite artists, favorite bands is for those artists to become complacent, to become bored, to become just like they're churning out the same thing in order to what they think will please their audience. Um, with us, we've always managed to like make music that is thrilling to us, and you can hear that in the
yeah.
music, I think, and
Mm.
because people are smart, they know when this band is clearly making basically the same album they've always made again because they think it's gonna like do something for their career or whatever. Um, whereas I think people, especially from bands that come from like a more of a punk background, the more alternative world, you need to offer the alternative, and the alternative is being genuine. It's being honest. It's being genuinely passionate about what you're doing. And it's very easy with the kind of pressures of capitalism, if you like, to slip into something that you think will be commercially successful.
As I mentioned earlier on in this conversation, there are 17 dates, and this is all happening in March of next year. 17 dates, but 19 shows. Is there a possibility that it might be, the success of it? Oh my God, we've another run of this, and oh, we're taking it over to America or to mainland Europe or Australia or whatever. Is that a possibility? A and B, does that conflict with anything with Enshikari's plans, or are the guys just like, you go and do this, and we're here when you're ready to jump back in for Enshikari stuff?
My assumption is it will just be these dates. There are, I think, two mainland Europe. So there's a Rotterdam that just got announced the other day, and then there's one other, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but then, like, yeah, from pretty much from straight after that tour finishes, I'm off on tour with Shikari. So
Yeah,
yeah, who's to say? Like, I'm sure it's going to be a fascinating experience, and I'd love to be able to continue it if there are yeah, other tours in other regions. But yeah, there's a lot in the works next year for Shikari. I mean, we've just started writing the next record as well, so there's no sense of like this is gonna get in the way.
yeah.
Hopefully there's always a way to kind of balance everything, but
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, at the moment it's just the dates that we
Okay.
have. Yeah.
And then I do have to ask because you put that carrot in front of me. Are songs for Enter Shikari? How deep are you into new material and the follow up to A Kiss for the World?
It's really the beginning stages. It's like that really exciting part where you just don't know what this is going to be, which direction we're going. There's lots of ideas flying around. There's like quite a arsenal of stuff to pick from in terms of what we want to develop. We spent a couple of weeks at the same house that we recorded the last album in. This wonderful kind of decrepit farmhouse down in Chichester, not too far from where War of the Worlds is set, to be honest. Um, and yeah, that place is great, and we started the first few tracks and demoing things and chucking ideas around. So yeah, just the beginnings, but it's exciting times.
We'll leave it there because I know you've got a lot going on at the minute. But listen, thank you so much for taking the time, and
Yeah.
yeah, we look forward to 2025 War of the Worlds. Rou Reynolds. I never thought I'd be saying that sentence. It's crazy, but it's fucking awesome. So yeah, congratulations. It's such a brilliant thing, and best of luck to everything that you do going forward, and obviously and Shikari's new music that you're writing, and I'm sure it's just going to be as mind blowing as everything else you've done. And yeah, long may it continue.
Hell
Fantastic.
yeah. Thank you so much, man. Thank you for having me.
Wicked.